This is a meeting of the Glenridge Board of Education. We met in exec session earlier tonight, and now we're ready to continue with the public portion of our meeting. At the moment, we have 51 people present, counting members of the Board of Education. So we have maybe 37, 38 members in the audience. In terms of written communications, we have received some written communications since February 22nd, which was when we had our last meeting. We received emails from Amanda McCabe and also separately from Stephanie Lee. Both were emails in support of the district's COVID leadership, both the administration and the board. We had an email from Karina Slackman recommending having some virtual days after spring break. Mr. Phillips responded to that, and that's still apparently in the deciding stages. We had an email from Karina Tahiliani, excuse me for that name massacre, with regard to resuming in-person instruction, and Mr. Phillips responded to that. So that is the written communication. The President's Report, I have noticed among people in Glenridge and elsewhere that there has been a lot of discussion that has mostly been in response to an article in the Patch on legislation pending before the legislature on consolidation. The Patch did a very poor job of really laying out what consolidation, what that legislation means. It does not mean that all school districts in New Jersey are going to be consolidated into either county districts or any other configuration. What the legislation does is it gives districts who are K-6 or K-8 the opportunity to explore consolidating into their regional districts, the districts to whom they send their kids for high school. It is voluntary. The incentive is that the state will pick up the costs of consolidation studies for those districts, but it is not aimed at K-12 districts like Glenridge. And this is different than what we went through a few years ago, where there was a more sort of comprehensive and somewhat draconian consolidation effort. This is not that. This is more carrot than stick, and the carrot is aimed at the elementary school district. So I wanted to clarify that because the Patch made it clear as mud. We also, just today, the governor signed legislation allowing school districts in New Jersey to have a 4% surplus as opposed to 2%. And Barbara will talk more about the 2% surplus and 4% surplus in the budget presentation. But that was just signed by the governor today. In Trenton, a lot of legislators want to do a lot of things in response to the COVID pandemic. They want to do a lot of things for our students. There is a lot of legislation pending that would do various things, that would mandate summer school, that would deal with grade retention for our students. But it's important to understand that while that legislation is pending, none of it has made its way through the legislative process yet, through the entire legislative process, or been signed by the governor. So you may hear some things that make you nervous in coming from Trenton. And that's not any different than normal, but it will be things that may potentially affect our children. I always have to say that it is a long way between something being proposed, something going through the hearing process, and something becoming law in the long run. So we monitor all of these developments in Trenton. If there's something to worry about, Mr. Phillips and or I will tell you well in advance if you're having to worry about it. Suffice it to say, a lot of well-intentioned people are trying to do well-intentioned things, some of which may be beneficial to the schools, others may not, but much of it will never come to pass. And that is the President's Report. I also wanted to speak to you, board members, a little bit about the addendum item on Chapter 44, which the resolution came to us from the School Boards Association. Chapter 44, for those who don't know, was legislation that reduced the healthcare premium contribution for our employees. A very good thing for our employees. Unfortunately, an unintended consequence of that is that there has been greater expense for school districts. And there has been a proposal, there's a proposal in the legislature to try to deal with those unintended consequences. That also has not gone anywhere yet. But the School Districts Association, to which every district in New Jersey belongs, has proposed this resolution that you see on your addendum tonight. And so I wanted to cover that with you and also take any questions before we go any further. Any questions on the Chapter 44 resolution?
I recognize that we might not have this information now, but I would be interested in knowing how Chapter 44 has affected our healthcare costs as a district.
Yes. So if all of our employees were decided to move to the new New Jersey Educators Plan, it would cost us approximately $110,000 a year. Right now, we've had a large amount of them move, and it's costing us $27,000 more in 2021 because it only started in January. But for next year, it would be $55,000. But if everybody moved, it would be $110,000.
Okay, and I did an informal survey of 6 Garden State member districts, larger districts, and only 6 districts, and the total amount that they would lose was about $1.7 million. So it is an issue for districts in the state of New Jersey. Again, the intention was to help our employees with their premiums, which it did, but the unintended consequence was additional expense for many districts. So that is an ongoing issue, and that's why we have this resolution. Any other questions or comments on that? All right, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Betsy. Bring up the presentation. Right. And it should be up, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so tonight we're going to have, I'm going to give you an update on the schools as it relates to the pandemic and us moving forward under and hopefully offering some expanded learning opportunities. And Barbara Murphy will be presenting the preliminary budget for the 21-22 school year. So there's a couple essential components to our school system that will be presented tonight. All right, so I first want to give an update on the COVID, and here's the number of quarantines and COVID cases for the last 4 weeks in the district. And you can see that the number of COVID cases for the past few weeks, and it's been pretty consistent throughout this school year. At least since January, we did have a bump at the end of November where we're staying around under 10 COVID cases per week. Which is significant if you think about it, because it does impact our instruction, where we have individuals who are missing class or not being able to instruct or have to instruct remotely. And that's a 2-week quarantine period when you do have COVID. So that's something to remember. What I mentioned at the last board meeting was at the beginning of the school year, we did not see a lot of elementary students getting COVID, but we continue to experience a few cases every week of elementary students who are now coming up positive. So that's, again, something we're keeping our eye out. As far as our the region report, this is the latest Cali report from the state of New Jersey and the Department of Health. There are currently 4 regions that are in the high region, including ours, which is the Northeast region. A couple of weeks ago, only 2 regions were at the high risk level, but we had a couple regions, the the Central East region, and I believe, I'm sorry, there's only 3 regions. The Central East was at a moderate level for 1 week, then it did bounce back up to the high risk level 2 weeks ago. So we're monitoring that, and that level really is something that determines how we move forward, and it determines the number of quarantine days based on the Department of Health guidelines. As far as the statistics related to the Cali level, they are listed there. The week of February 13th and 20th, we did see a drop in the numbers, and that was a positive sign. But the last 2 weeks, the case numbers have gone back up, and that's something we're going to watch on. And that's really pushing our level to be at the high risk level. So we're hoping to see those numbers drop down and get us to a moderate level. Within the town of Glenridge, the last few months, we've been experiencing about 50 new cases each month, and something we're monitoring and keeping an eye out on to see if that has an upturn or downturn. Within our school buildings, we've had a couple opportunities since the beginning of the year to have people change their instructional model, and we have seen at the elementary schools a drop in the number of remote-only students. So if you look at our 4 elementary schools, we have a small percentage of our students who are still choosing to have their instruction done by remote only. They're staying virtually. They are not coming in for in-person. At our high school, our middle school and high school numbers are much higher. And that's really a couple reasons. One is just the age of the students, where they can better handle the remote learning. Second, they have a little bit more say probably than the elementary school students of determining if they're coming in or not. Third is we started the school year off, and if you remember, the high school was all virtual for 3 of the first 4 months at the start of the school year, and I think that really impacted our students coming in. I think a lot of students got in a routine and got comfortable in the way that the remote-only instruction was being delivered, and they just chose to stay in that mode. About a week ago, I sent out a survey to the parents because we were starting to examine some of our procedures that we have in the buildings, and we wanted some information if we were to move forward. Where are the parents at as far as comfort level, and is it going to impact in-person instruction? So one of the first moves that we did move is we eliminated the temperature check, and we did that starting last week, and that seems to have gone well for us. No major shift in the way that students are coming into the building. We're not getting an increase of students who ended up having a fever or needed to leave for the day, so that's a positive sign. One question we did want to throw out to the parents is just we currently have daily wellness checks. So when students are coming in for in-person instruction, we ask that the parents do a health screen and let us know that they're healthy enough to come into school that day. We're considering changing that daily wellness check into a weekly check, where we inform the parents that they must perform the health screening on every day, and the parents are just signing off that they would do so. There are districts out there who are doing it on a monthly basis. I do not see us heading in that direction, but just to give you some comparative practices out there. So looking at this survey, on the left is the percentages of parents who would be extremely uncomfortable moving to a weekly wellness check, and to the right are the numbers that of parents who would be extremely comfortable. So we're seeing roughly about 70% of our parents are extremely comfortable if we moved in that direction, and another 13% who are neutral. And we're seeing about 16, 17% who it would be a concern to them. And those are numbers that we'll take under consideration before we decide if we are going to move in that direction. And we're not looking to move immediately of making that change, but it is a procedure that we are reviewing. The other survey questions I asked was about daily attendance and bringing students in on a daily basis, and that would mean an impact to the 6-foot social distancing guidance that we've received from the state. And the other question was about extending our school day, which would mean offering lunch, which is a lot of obstacles and challenges to when it comes to providing lunch periods because of masks being off for an extended period of time. And we want to make sure that we are able to maintain a safe environment in our school. But if you look at again, trying to measure the parent comfort level, I looked at this survey and said, would there be a significant impact of students not coming in for live instruction if we were to make one or the other change? And for the most part, you're going to see there was no significant impact in our primary schools, which means that the number of parents who said they would keep their students, would move their students home, or would move their students in if we made those options available, was basically neglected each other. So there was no change in the number of in-person individuals receiving in-person instruction. At Ridgewood Avenue, we did see about a difference of 11 students would be staying home for daily attendance if we made reduce the social distancing. At the middle school and high school, we did see an increase. If we made either move, more students would come in for in-person instruction. So when I look at these numbers, it is indicating to me that there is a comfort level with the parents of making some changes, that the students would still be coming in for in-person instruction, and actually seeing an increase of students at the middle school and high school level if we were to do so. I was also able to survey our staff to get an idea of how many staff members have been vaccinated or are going through the process. And again, it's just trying to get a clearer picture of where we are as a district. So we had 164 staff members respond to the questions where they are pertaining to receiving the vaccine. We have roughly a third of our respondents said that they are fully vaccinated at this time. We have 30% who have said that they have received their first dosage. So that means probably by April break, they will be fully vaccinated. And then we have another 11% who have made their initial appointment to get vaccinated. So out of the respondents, we're looking about 70% of them would be fully vaccinated by the end of April. And that's a good sign. And those are important numbers to help us dictate how safe it is to move forward, and knowing that we have more staff members vaccinated and what percentage roughly will help us make those decisions. Out of the 164 staff members, we do have a total of around 250 staff members. One of the tasks that we've been working on for the last couple of weeks, and that's been Dr. Donovan and Nurse High, who's the Ridgewood Avenue School's nurse. And I've been working to find an organization to provide our staff with on-site vaccinations. Through the assistance of a couple community members that Dr. Donovan was able to contact and Mayor Stuart Patrick, we have been able to form a partnership with Hackensack Meridian Mountainside Medical Center to have our staff members vaccinated at their site starting this week. So we're very pleased that we're able to expedite that process for our staff members. We've had a number of staff members sign up starting on Friday through today, and they'll be able to get their first dosage this week. So when we start looking at the bigger picture and the situation when we're in, we got to look at it as a combination of factors. We have a regional risk factor, and although we're still at the high risk factor, we're hoping to see those numbers trend downward and get in the moderate level in the coming weeks. Through the parent surveys, we noticed that parents have a comfort level with proposed changes, and that's a good sign for us to move forward. The percentage of staff vaccinations, ideally by the end of April, will be somewhere around 75% of our entire staff being vaccinated. And lastly, just the weather changing is going to help us. With spring showing up, we're going to be able to open up our windows more, maintain a comfortable learning environment in our buildings. That will help with airflow. We're going to be able to get more students outside and use some outdoor space. So these are all factors that will come into play in helping us decide how we're going to move forward and when we are going to move forward. And lastly, part of that plan would be getting the support of our local health director and our school physician. They're part of this process of determining when it is safe, and their input is valued by the school district. The district will move incrementally and deliberately when we decide to move forward. We will monitor the changes that we implement to make sure that change is not causing increased safety issues within a building. So I want to talk about our tentative plan, and I do stress the word tentative because it does rely on factors such as our risk level and the changes that we make. How does it impact the safety within the building? What's happening first is at the high school level, and we can do this because it's not going to impact any safety guidance that's currently in place because of the number of all remote students. So starting at the high school on next Monday, seniors can start to attend daily. The following week, we'll start with the juniors attend daily. And the week after that, the freshmen and sophomores can come in. So we'll be able to monitor the impact and any impact it may have on our routines and procedures. We're looking for the middle school who has a higher percentage of students coming in to attend daily after the spring break. One of the concerns with the high school is although they have a greater percentage of students attending all remote instruction, there are conditions at the high school that limits the same safety protocols that we have in the other buildings. Most notably is there's a lot more movement happening in the high school between periods as the elementary schools. There's a tendency for the classes to stay in the classroom as part of our safety protocols. The second, at the high school, we don't have cohorts. Every building, every period, students are in a different room with a different group of students, and obviously that increases the risk level because you're creating more exposures to a number of individuals as opposed to just a cohort. So we monitor that situation closely. We really try to enforce a 6-foot rule at the high schools because we want to make sure that if there is an individual with COVID, that there is limited close contact. So that's why it's important to keep that protocol in place as long as possible. So at Ridgewood Avenue School, we are looking for all the students to attend daily in April, and we'd like that to be on the first half of April. But again, there's a lot of factors in place that we will be monitoring in order to make sure that happens. The primary schools on April 22nd, we are looking to have what we're calling the social integration time, which is really a play time for the students. And that's something that's been missing this year. in the classroom. It's really been a focus on academics because we only have them for live instruction for 2.5 hours. Weather permitting, we're going to invite certain grade levels to go outside and play, which would be an extension of their day. For our AM cohort, that extension of the day would happen after their AM session. And for our PM cohort, that would happen before their PM session begins. So we're looking to get some playtime in for the students, give them some more social opportunities that are so important at this young age for them. The next component then move with the primary students would be to combine the cohorts and run a half-day schedule. And again, we're looking to do this sometime in April, and this would require a change of instruction for some of our remote-only students. And that's a concern of ours, and that's why we want to make sure that we give the parents some opportunity with time and some of the teachers opportunity to make instructional adjustments. We know we're changing instructional models that will happen in the classroom, and we want to make sure we do it effectively when that happens. And lastly, when we're looking at moving forward, our goal in May is to have a full day, and that includes having lunch. We want to have students attend daily. We want to be offering full days, but those are our plans. I've shared them with our local health director, who will be coming with this week to visit with us, to sit down and review our plans, make suggestions when we're looking at the classroom and space if we were to have daily attendance. As far as summer is concerned, we are looking at the possibility of running an academic academy during the summer. We will be putting out a parents survey probably within the week, just to gauge the interest of parents if they want for their child to attend the academic academy. So please look out for that survey and fill it out when you get it. And there's always some questions about next fall, and we know there's a lot of questions. We have a lot of questions. Unfortunately, there just hasn't been that many answers coming from the state agencies. But as those questions are starting to be addressed, we will keep you informed about it. As we start changing our building procedures, the building principals will communicate with the families about the changes in their buildings and keep you informed of what to expect. The last thing I want to present tonight is just a review of our quarantine guidelines, because we do get questions a lot, and it's important that everyone's aware of the guidelines. And I know with our April break and a little less than a month away, some families are making plans. So quickly, a quick summary. If an individual has had COVID in the last 90 days and are asymptomatic, they do not have to quarantine for either a close contact or travel. So if you've had COVID, a student or an adult, they do not have to quarantine for close contact or travel. If individuals have received a full vaccination, they do not have to quarantine for close contact, but they do have to still quarantine for travel. The length of our quarantine varies depending on the situation. If you have a close contact, currently at the high risk level, it's a 14-day quarantine. If you have a close contact and we're at a moderate or lower level, it will be a 10-day quarantine. As far as the travel restrictions and the quarantine, if you travel out of state, and then there are some exclusions that are listed below, that after returning to New Jersey, 3 to 5 days after returning, you can take a PCR test. If it is negative, you can return after a week. If you choose not to take a test, you can return after 10 days. Obviously, if the test is positive, then we're dealing with a COVID situation. You're dealing with a different type of quarantine. Some exclusions to this, current exclusions. If you travel to New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, or Delaware, you do not have to quarantine for the traveling in those states. If you return to New Jersey after 24 hours, less than 24 hours, you do not have to quarantine. There is a transit exclusion if you're just traveling through a state and you're not spending any significant time there. The only reason you're in that state is because of transit reason, whether it's you're driving through a state or you have maybe a layover on a flight. You do not have to quarantine, but for the transit. But if you're going obviously out of state, which would require you to travel through one of our neighboring states, then you most likely are going to be in a situation where you're going to have to quarantine. And I think this is more of a leftover from the original travel restriction when it was when certain states were quarantined and not every state. So we are hoping that the Department of Health will be revisiting travel guidelines soon. We know some of our neighboring states have, so that's a sign that typically New Jersey will do the same. And if those travel quarantine guidelines change, I will keep the public notified.
All right,
That
thank you,
is-
sir.
That, yes, I don't know if you want to ask questions now or you would prefer Barbara to.
I think that while it's fresh in all of our minds, I'll ask the board if they have any questions.
Okay.
For public comment, we'll do our regular public comment after Barbara has done the budget. So, board members, any questions on the report?
Yeah, I do. Dirk, could you refresh our memories about the all virtual status and how and when parents can change that? Because if we're making all of these changes, obviously you will have some movement. When is that period?
Well, for the elementary schools, it has been at the end of the marking period. If we start going into a phase where it's all students are coming in or we're offering lunch and parents are not comfortable with that phase and they want to go all virtual, we'll work with those parents. But at this time, all the elementaries have had their open enrollment to change. And I know that the high school just, I believe today, sent out their open enrollment to change the instructional model in preparation for daily attendance at the high school grade levels.
So in other words, before you start making changes, you will have a sense of how many students will be coming in.
Correct. So we have a good sense now that that's one of the reasons I showed the remote only numbers. So that's where we are at. But again, if we have a situation where parents are not comfortable if we go below 6 feet, we will allow them to go all remote.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments from the board?
Heather?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. So if I understand what you told Tracy, as changes occur, you can only switch to remote.
At this time, yes. So, part of this is understanding what we have in place and being able to structure our day around what's in place. So I believe we'd be working with the parents on this if there was a significant reason why an all remote would come in for in person. It's something that we'll probably be more flexible than what we've been in the past, though.
And if I understood you correctly, everything except the high school students coming in would require reducing the physical distance between students.
Correct. So when we're looking at our cohorts at the elementary schools, if we brought them all in together, we're looking at classrooms that taking out the remote only kids, probably around 20 to 22 kids, which would put us below the 6 feet. Some of the high school classes might be below, would be overpopulated, and we'd have to look, either look for an alternative instructional space, a larger space for them, or it might be something where we have to inform the parents that they would also be below 6 feet.
And for the including lunch, have you made plans for that, or is that just a future idea to iron out how
That is a future idea that we're trying to iron out. That's working with the health director. I've been in contact with a couple schools that do it. It's mostly very small elementary schools that have class sizes typically under 16.
Yeah.
But one school district, Mount Olive, recently changed over to a full day, and I've been in communication with that superintendent.
Okay, and I guess I'm not really clear what would change for the virtual students at like Linden and Forest and Central. You said if more students come in, that model would change. I didn't know what that.
If we go to a full day instructional model, typically what happens now when we have all remote students, the teacher will do an AM live session, and then there'll be the PM would be the remote only session. All right. If we're going to a 4-hour session, we're not going to be able to offer a separate 4-hour session for the elementary. Our numbers are, as you saw, are down a lot as far as the remote only students. So they would have to go to more of a broadcast model, similar to Ridgewood.
Oh, so elementary teachers don't teach simultaneously like everyone else has to do too.
No, we were trying to avoid that because of the primary level students. And that's why we're delaying that a little bit longer, because it will be a significant change for some students.
Okay. And the social aspect, if I understood correctly, for those grades was recess 1 grade per day for a while.
Yeah, so we're set certain days. Kindergarten will be day whatever, 1 and 4, 2 and 5, 3 and 6, as we look at the different grade levels.
And I guess right now you're supposed to leave right after you're dismissed. People aren't playing on the playground already.
Correct.
Other questions from board members?
I just wanted to get clarity. So for the grading and for the high school, can any senior start going full-time, or only seniors who are hybrid?
Any senior can start going full-time.
And that's the same for the juniors and then the sophomore and freshman, regardless
Correct.
of their current choice. Okay.
Yes. So there was a survey out informing them about the changes and letting them know that they need to inform us if they're going to come in. If you're a remote only student, you need to sign up to come in for in-person. Again, we have spaces that could go based on the individual classes or courses that could go require us to be under the 6 foot, and then we would have to relocate that. So we need to know the situation. It can't be a fluid, well, one day it's this course and another day it's that course.
And then that's the same for the middle school once they're active. Again, anybody who, regardless of whether you're now chosen remote or you've chosen hybrid, you can come in.
Correct.
For the 5. Okay.
I have one more question.
Sure.
The instructional model is the same though, right? You're pretty much on your laptop all day if you're talking like 3rd grade and higher. Like there's still no labs, right? Right. You're still doing everything on the computer, right?
So there are some labs being done, but yeah, the primary form of instruction is through the Chromebook, because you have a number of students, half your population at Ridgewood are remote on any given day. And at the high school, it's actually more than half of your population in that classroom is remote.
I was saying, like, even going forward, if more people come in, it's still going to remain the same though, right?
There'll be adjustments if you get a classroom where there might be only a couple kids who are remote only. You're going to see instruction models change a little bit. It might be an aide that might be assigned to the classroom, might have a little more interaction with the one or two students than the classroom teacher who's, focusing on the 20 other students who are in person.
Okay, other questions from board members? All right, I think we can go ahead to the budget.
So Barbara Murphy will be presenting the budget.
Hopefully. There we go.
Welcome to the Glenridge Public Schools 2021-2022 preliminary budget presentation. The budget process. Our Finance Committee meets throughout the school year. We have meetings with district administrators throughout the school year to review academics, personnel, supply, and facilities needs. The preliminary budget is on tonight's agenda for approval, and once approved, it will be submitted to the county for approval. The Finance Committee will continue to meet on the budget. The public hearing on the budget will be on April 26th, and the budget will be on the agenda for approval. Once approved, the final budget is submitted to the county. 2021-22 year-over-year budget increases. This budget includes $149,000 for salary and benefits for a building principal at Central School. It includes $51,706 in salary and benefits for a part-time secretary to move to full-time at Central School. It includes $55,580 in salary and benefits for a part-time primary school counselor to move to full-time, covering Forest, Linden, and Central schools. And it also includes $430,390 in capital improvements for a partial roof replacement over the upper gym, offices, and hallway at Ridgewood Avenue School. 2021-22 year-over-year budget decreases. This budget has a decrease of $5,757 in co-curriculars at the high school, $24,233 in administrative software, and $313,339 in salaries and benefits staff cuts, and $20,000 in supplies. The proposed budget is supported by $1.6 million in budgeted fund balance, $192,161 in capital reserve withdrawal, a local tax levy of $31,979,860, which represents a 2% increase, tuition revenue of $366,723, which are down because pre-K revenues may be less due to half-time pre-K. Miscellaneous revenues, which appear lower due to a change in GASB 84 accounting rules requiring student activity fees to be recorded in Fund 20. And we have welcomed an increase in state aid of $315,466 to a total of $1,611,010. The general operating budget year-over-year increase is 0.88%. General fund expenditures. Our proposed expenditures are made up of $16,245,733 in instructional expenses, including regular and special education instructional expenditures like teacher salaries, paraprofessionals, instructional supplies, purchase technical services for the classrooms, co-curriculars, and athletics. The proposed budget also includes $19,029,360 in support services, which includes out-of-district tuitions, nurses' salaries and supplies, related services salaries and supplies for speech, OT, PT, and behavioral therapies, as well as mental health counseling, guidance services, child study team services, library services, staff trainings, administration, and operations and maintenance of our buildings. Our budget includes $536,161 for capital expenditures, which includes the partial roof replacements at Ridgewood Avenue School and Promethean board replacements. Our proposed general fund total increase over the 2021 original budget is 0.88%. Revenue history. When we look at our history of state aid, we see that we have been gradually getting a little more state aid each year. This year, we welcome another increase in state aid, $315,446 more than the state aid received in 2021. Our tax levy increases have been relatively stable, between 2% and 3.16% over the last 5 years. For 21-22, we are proposing a 2% tax levy increase. Cost to the taxpayer. The tax impact of the general tax levy on the average house, assessed at $667,163, is projected to increase by $181.61 for the year, or $15.13 per month. Our public hearing on the budget is scheduled for April 26th, and that concludes the presentation of our preliminary budget.
Thank you, Barbara. I think we'll follow the same procedure right now. We will take questions from the board on the budget and then open up the first public comment period. So, board members, do you have any questions on the budget? Anything? Jocelyn?
Barbara, this just occurred to me because of the earlier comment about the possibility of a summer program. Does this budget include allocations for staff salaries during summer programs if they were to occur?
We did get a small grant for learning loss of $36,000 for to be used over 2 years. So there is an additional $18,000 that we could use towards a summer program.
Okay, other questions from the board?
Just to add to Jocelyn's question, that's in addition to what's already allocated for the typical summer program.
Correct.
Okay.
It would be separate.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, if that is the case, it is now time for the first public comment period for comments or questions on agenda items, including the budget and the update on the schools. Our rules, for those of you who are new to us, and we have 75 of us in attendance right now, which means about 60 of us are audience members. Our rules are that in each public comment period, including this one, you have 2 minutes to make your question or comment. When you start, please identify yourself and confirm that you're a Glenridge resident. If you have several questions, state them all at once. Questions or comments, state them all at once. I will be timing you on the stopwatch function of my phone, and we'll let you know if you exceed the 2 minutes. I should also say, just for the benefit of everyone, that if you wonder about something, for example, some aspect of the return to school plan or some aspect of the budget, and you don't have a chance to ask us tonight, or you are in between meetings, we encourage you to send your questions to the board and the superintendent so that we can answer them. This is a much more satisfactory way of answering questions than asking neighbors who all have different pieces of the informational puzzle. So we encourage that when questions come up. But for right now, please use the raise your hand function on your screen, which is down by participants. and raise your hand. I will recognize you, and then please go ahead. So I see two people. Nihal, and forgive me for this, Bulji.
Not too bad. Hi, everyone. This is Nihal Bujale. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Very good. I live on Stonehouse Road. I have one son in first grade at Forest and one son in pre-K at Central. And my comment is about limiting the use of virtual days after the pandemic. And specifically, I'd like the board to develop a clear policy on when virtual days are used, especially for weather-related reasons. Now, we've learned this year that virtual is certainly nowhere near as effective as in person, especially at the elementary level. And I do appreciate the need to consider our educators' ability to get to work safely. In fact, my wife was an English teacher before we had kids. And so I would dig her car out at 5 a.m. so she could get to work. But that being said, this need has to also be balanced with the fact that our goal isn't to hit the 180 days prescribed by Trenton, but to really prepare our kids for an intensely competitive global marketplace for jobs. And honestly, the best way to do that is to be in school. And again, I'm talking about post-pandemic. And in addition, I'd say SNAP virtual days place intense pressure on those of us where both parents work. And that's really been a challenge this year. So post-pandemic, I'm really keen to see the board call that virtual days should be used only in the rarest of circumstances. I'd like the board to develop a clear policy communicated to taxpayers, and this policy should go into effect when our kids go back full time. So thank you, and I do want to thank all the teachers and educators who have been going to work while I've been lucky enough to be at home. So thank you for the comment time.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips, do you want to address that? Mr. Phillips?
Thank you for your comments. If we're talking about post-pandemic, part of this will be a guidance from the DOE and the governor's office. The only reason why we can currently use virtual days is because of the state of emergency related to the pandemic. So the state has not released if and how they would allow districts to use virtual days in a post-pandemic world. So I know that has been a concern that's been addressed at the state level, and we're looking for some additional guidance. So as soon as we get the guidance, we can go back and look at a policy that works for our town.
We are in a perpetual situation of waiting for state guidance for many things. Thank you. I see Charlie Breslin.
Oh, good evening. Charlie Breslin, and I live on Summer Avenue. I had a question for Ms. Murphy just about the budget presentation. I think if I read it correctly, there was 300,000 that you were looking at 300,000 in reduced expenses for teachers. If I understood, that's what I want to ask. I don't understand if I understood it correctly. And then I also wanted to just, on a related, but maybe a subtopic, where in the budget is our expenses for healthcare costs, and what percentage is the budget? And do you foresee our continuing to keep our partnership with other districts? And is that yielding the benefits that you hope?
Yes, I'll address that question first. The health benefits went up 4.83% this year. And although it sounds like a lot, when we're in a 2% cap world, you may remember years ago we had a 28% increase and a 20% increase. So we're very pleased with the 4.83% increase, and that equated out to $250,000. And as far as the staff cuts, I think I will turn that over to Dirk. Is that all right, Dirk?
That's fine. So we are looking at some cuts, and part of this is operational, where I guess one of the benefits of the pandemic is for us we had to operate a little bit differently. And at the high school, we went to a system where we weren't bringing in substitutes for every teacher that was out, and we used more of a global system that they reported a common area, and we had one or two substitutes or teachers covering that space, and we'll continue that practice. It was well received by the high school and at Ridgewood, so that's going to save us some significant funding. But we do have some reduction in staff, and that will include consolidating some positions. It will include some full-time positions going to part-time. What I will tell you, we don't discuss the personnel situation at this time because it's not an approved budget and by the board or by the county. And once that happens, that's we'll have those personnel discussions. But what I can tell you is the staffing decisions that we are making will not affect the number of sections that are offered in the schools, and it will not impact class size.
Okay, thank you. I see Jeffrey Larkins. Jeffrey Larkins? You're muted at the moment.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, we can hear you now.
Great. This is Megan Larkins. I'm on Rudd Court. First, just want to say thank you to everybody for all the hard work. It's really greatly appreciated. We have a kindergartner at Central, so this is specific to the elementary students, and the proposed 4-day schedule that might happen in April. Or not 4-day, I'm sorry, 4-hour, 8:30 to 12:30. How would aftercare work in that scenario for that month? Would children be able to stay directly after at 12:30, and to what time? And that's it.
We would offer aftercare immediately after the dismissal and going up to 6 o'clock p.m. We currently do something very similar at Ridgewood when they're getting dismissed a little bit later than that, but those individuals have the ability to stay in aftercare from their dismissal till 6 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Next, Kim Engel.
Hi, Kim Engel. I live in Glenridge. I'm a resident. I also have a kindergartner at Linden. And my question really has more to do with the social aspect of things that are changing, more so than the academic piece, I guess. When the kids are starting to go back, hopefully in May, full day, will they be able to have recess and social time every day, or will it still be like a rotational, plan because of COVID still most likely existing in the community, as well as then, right now they are still around plexiglass. My daughter just turned 6. She hasn't had really any social interaction with the kids in the classroom. And I am concerned about these young children, or all children, in the social aspect. And I would say that I can't say a percentage but the vast majority of the curriculum has been worksheets. And so for these small kids, I think it's starting to get she has some school refusal, and I think it's just starting to affect her. So I want to know if the curriculum will change to be a little bit more hands-on or social interaction, or will you be keeping them as far apart as you can, within the amount of kids that will be there?
Thank you. Mr. Phillips, would you like to address that?
Yes. So you referenced the full day. I'm going to take you back to our point in April when we're looking to combine the cohorts and go on a half-day schedule. When we go on a half-day schedule with the cohorts, the students will have everyday recess. So that is our plan. And obviously that will continue when they have a full day experience.
All right. Thank you. I don't see any more hands. Does anyone have additional comments or questions? All right. Just to notify you that we do have a second public comment period at the end of the meeting. So if you think of something, you can speak up again at that time. And now the board will go on to committee and liaison reports. It is the first meeting of the month. Let's see. Jocelyn, let's start with you. Or if you don't feel ready, we can move on.
No, I'm fine. So to start with Grace, there is an upcoming Grace meeting this week on Wednesday. It will start at 7:30 and the Zoom link has been sent out. Questions can be submitted in advance to the Glenridge grace@gmail.com email address. And this meeting is actually a Q&A with the board. Primarily Betsy, Dirk, and myself will be present. So it's really a conversation between any parents and any questions they might have related to special education. The Forest Avenue School Home and School meeting, again, there's the ongoing discussion about how we can extend the school day with some talk about that cohort extension to increase socialization that Dirk mentioned. They will be installing a new playground surface because the mesh is exposed beneath some of the rubber on the current playground, and that's happening immediately. There is the visiting author visit coming up at the end of this month. And then on the topic of social emotional learning, the social worker at the school, Mrs. Fitzpatrick, is going to be launching new student groups. One is called Worry Warriors and another is called Friendship Building and Social Development Skills. So these groups will be meeting once per cycle for 6 to 12 weeks. And she sent out a survey to parents asking if they would be interested in having their children participate. So be on the lookout for that if you haven't seen it and if you're concerned about your child's participation in social activities. They're still looking for HSA officers if anyone is interested, and there are plans underway for increasing enrichment activities, both virtual and in-person outdoor activities throughout the remainder of the year. For Ridgewood Home and School, the open enrollment in period just occurred, and so virtual students who opted in have started returning this week. Also, as we discussed, temperature checks have been eliminated, but contact tracing remains key. And Dr. Donovan spoke of how proud he is that there have been no in-person transmission cases that have been uncovered by the contact tracing efforts. In terms of future plans, it looks like the Rhino Romp and Field Day will still remain virtual, but there's talk that Fountain Springs might be happening in person. And there are big plans underway to make 6th grade promotion, to have in-person elements and include a ceremony and a barbecue and, many of the other aspects that make it so special for our students. That's it.
Thank you so much. Heather, do you have anything?
Linden Home and School met last week. So past events, they had a soup drive where they donated 114 items. They did the Valentine's Day gift baskets to the crossing guards and gave breakfast to the Glenridge police. Upcoming events, they're having an author day with Doreen Cronin, I believe, Diary of a Fly, she's an author. They're doing a Got Sneakers thing where you donate your old sneakers and they're kept out of the landfill. They're kind of recycled and it's also a fundraiser. They have school photos coming up. They're going to be outdoors for virtual students. They have plans to repaint the wall mural that's outside. They're reviving the new parent group and hoping to move it in a social direction because I feel like the parents really didn't get to socialize the way they normally do. 2nd grade promotion has done a couple of fundraisers. So far, they've raised $1,900, which is actually short of their goal. So they're hoping to see what they can do with that or if they're going to try some additional fundraisers. They are planning to have a movie night in mid-May, and they're trying to decide what is acceptable in terms of having a 2nd grade promotion ceremony in June. And lastly, there are officer openings for treasurer and secretary, as well as committee chair openings on the home and school.
Okay, thank you. Anthony?
No announcements. I think GRA softball registration closed last week, and I think we're all moving tentatively and carefully toward more outdoor sports.
Okay, well, that's a hopeful report. Thank you. Tracy?
Yes, the Educational Foundation, GREF, met on March 9th. They discussed ongoing fundraising strategies. They shared feedback from several teachers and other school groups who have benefited from their vast generosity recently. And they're very excited about the funding of the Promethean board, which we'll be approving today on today's agenda. So that's that. Central School met on March 11th. Their parent conferences are coming up. School pictures were taken, which was an adventure, as you can imagine, with the social distancing. They had a Gertrude Hawk fundraiser, which was very successful. They're looking at fundraising and doing something for Mother's Day and Father's Day. They are having a social on April 25th, which will be an outdoor socially distanced social event. And their visiting author will be coming in virtually on March 25th through 26th, and their next meeting is April 29th. And lastly, the Personnel and Policy Committee met last week. We reviewed many new policies, several of which are on the agenda and most of which are mandatory. We discussed clarifying guidelines surrounding participation in school events for virtual students. And we talked at length about personnel issues, which will be reflected in the budget for next year. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Duval? You're muted.
Sorry. For our communications committee, we've had a couple of meetings in the last month, and one big focus is revamping our district website. And so we have been going through what will be required for that and the logistics and what exactly needs to be updated. So that's hopefully coming in the, I don't know what to say about timing on that, but hopefully not too far in the distant future. And we've also, as a communications committee, looking at ways to streamline our email communication from outside organizations who use the district email blast at 2:00. And so just to make it a little friendlier and more consistent so that parents are getting good information quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Michael?
I promised myself I wouldn't do that, and then I did it. So negotiations committee is meeting later this week. The curriculum committee has not yet met this month, but will be, I think, in beginning of next week. The GRMPA had a fundraiser trivia night, which I think was rigged, and I think the third place winner was actually probably the best. And let's see, I think that's it. There are 61 days left in the school year. I just want to take this opportunity to give a shout out to Dirk and the entire administrative and teaching staff for all the great work that they've done.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Teresa?
Hello, I have some good news and some not so good news for the gas lamp folks. I'll give you the not so good news first. They had their storage unit vandalized at Harrell and broken into. So that was kind of not so wonderful. They have had an opportunity to clean that out and address that and replace a lock, but that wasn't so. That was our negative on that one. On the positive, they're having 2 outdoor productions for the spring, one for teens and one for young children. And their summer program is to be determined, but they always do wonderful productions. So I'm looking forward to whatever they do. I have been looking to find the contact person for the Glenridge Arts Patron Association. So to the extent that I was looking online to see if I could connect with them. So this is a shout out to say, you know, if there's something that someone could reach out to me and let me know what we can do to promote them, that would be great.
Okay, we'll try to find them. Thank you. David?
Yeah, the Finance Committee, as you could probably imagine from Barbara's presentation, met on the 19th of January and the 20th of January and the 3rd of March. I don't have much to add. Barbara, did her presentation, and I will say that the experience working with Barbara and Dirk has been a very positive one. There's a lot of hard work being done. Obviously, unprecedented times, unique expenditures, unique savings, hard decisions to be made, complete uncertainty as to what's coming from Trenton or wherever else. But they are always on top of it at all times and keeping us informed moment to moment. It really is a pleasure working with them. And on communications, we met on January 20th as well, and then again on March 12th. And you got not just a preview, but really the entire report from Duval just ahead of me, just a couple minutes ago. So we'll keep you posted as we communications meets and the initiatives that she described move forward.
Okay, thank you. And for my part, the Glenridge High School Home and School meets on Friday. So I will have a report next month on that. Also, the Glenridge Black Diversity and Inclusion Association has announced its first Women's History Month scavenger hunt, virtual scavenger hunt, which the announcement of that just went out. It's open to students in grades kindergarten through 12th. And to participate, go to your emails. You have to complete a Google form by March 19th, and then you'll receive the scavenger hunt item list via email on Saturday, March 20th. And the theme of the scavenger hunt is Women's History Month. And specifically, I think contributions by Black women historically. So please, I love a good scavenger hunt. I think a lot of people do. Encourage your child to sign up for that scavenger hunt. And that is my report. Now, you have in your packets, board members, minutes from exec session and regular meeting session for February 22nd. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to the minutes? Okay, Michael, would you move the minutes?
Yes, I'll move M1.
May I have a second? Second from Duval, I see your hand. Okay, apparently no corrections or additions. Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet,
You're muted, Anthony.
Mr. Campbell,
Not that I don't trust you all, but I was not at the public session.
okay. Ms. Boyavucci,
Aye.
Mr. DeLu,
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb,
Aye.
Ms. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. St. Auburn,
Aye.
Dr. Yaris Ramos,
Abstain.
Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. We have a hefty package of administrative items, including the ones on your addendum, A1 and A2. David, would you move the administrative items?
I move A1 through A4, which is on the addendum.
Okay. May I have a second? Second from Duval.
I'll second. Yeah.
All right. Any discussion on the agenda or addendum items? Lisa, did you raise your hand or we?
I'm just like, the mute thing throws me off. I'm trying to make sure it's going. No, I'm good.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I don't want to shortchange anyone. Okay. All right. If there are no comments or questions, Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet,
Aye.
Ms. Boyavucci, Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. DeLu,
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb,
Aye.
Ms. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. St. Auburn,
Aye.
Dr. Yaris Ramos,
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, moving to personnel. Tracy, would you move the personnel items?
Yes, I move P1 through P6 and the revision of P7, which is on the addendum.
Right? May I have a second?
Second.
Second from Anthony. Okay, in keeping with our rules and the board members' code of ethics, we discuss personnel-related items in exec session. So if no one on the board has an objection, Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet,
Aye.
Ms. Boyle Valucci,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. DeLu,
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb,
Aye.
Ms. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubern,
Aye.
Dr. Yaris Ramos,
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye,
Motion carries.
thank you. Before we go on to the business items, I want to draw your attention to the donations, which are listed under B3 on your agendas. We received a donation from the Glenridge Educational Foundation, which, as Tracy mentioned, it will provide funds for the Promethean Board for the Glenridge High School Music Program. And that donation is in the sum of approximately $5,200. So thank you to the foundation. And Tracy, please convey our thanks to Fran Wong. Now, David, would you move the business items?
I move B1 through B14.
Okay, yes. And there's no business items on the addendum, so B1 through B14. May I have a second?
I just have a question.
Sure.
After the second or before?
Let's do the second first, then we'll do the question. Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Second from Michael. Okay, question.
I was just curious about the workshop for phonological awareness training, what grades that was for, because I didn't recognize the teachers.
Is Phillips?
It's under B8.
Just give me a second to pull that up.
Paula Horton and Lisa Walter.
They are both, one's a Linden Avenue and one's a Forest Avenue teacher. They're both reading specialists.
Okay, any other questions before we take the vote? No? All right, Barbara, would you call the roll?
Mr. Bonnet,
Aye.
Ms. Boyle Valucci, Mr. Campbell,
Aye.
Mr. DeLu,
Aye.
Ms. Gottlieb,
Aye.
Ms. Graham,
Aye.
Ms. St. Aubern,
Aye.
Dr. Yaris Ramos,
Aye.
Ms. Ginsburg.
Aye.
Motion's carried.
All right, we've reached the second public comment period for questions or comments on agenda or other items pertaining to the running of the schools. Same procedure is in force. Use the raise your hand button, which is down by the participants tab on your screen, and I will recognize you in turn. So does anyone have a question or comment? Yes, Bernice Bonnet.
Hi, this is Bernice Clark Bonnet. I'm a Glenridge resident. I had a question about the high school plans. So if I'm understanding from the presentation, are we saying that as things continue to progress and hopefully progress safely, that as grades come back to school, would they be coming back in a half day or would they be coming back? I guess what I'm not understanding, are they coming back all half day and then there would be also a move to a full day instruction, or do those things happen simultaneously? And also in that case, does hybrid as an option completely go away?
They're happening separately. So, and that's for us to monitor the situation and realize if there is a negative effect, we know what action it was that caused a negative effect. So we're first going to bring the students back and allow them to attend daily. That would be under the current schedule they're at. And once we get all the students back, and hopefully in May, again, under the right conditions, we would like to go full day. As far as the hybrid model will stay in place until, well, it would be a modified hybrid because everyone has the ability to attend daily. It's just that they're not getting, their instruction will be under the current schedule. As far as the remote only option, I know there's been some questions about that. That is mandated by the governor and that stays in place for until the governor removes it. And that includes next year. We don't know what the status of that will be for next school year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Moved by Michael, may I have a second?
Tracy, second.
Second from Anthony. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you. And thanks to all.
Thanks.
Thank you.